Las palabras «salva a mi hijo ahora mismo» o «te demando por negligencia médica profesional» y «te destruyo completamente», «arruino tu carrera médica para siempre», «te quito tu licencia para practicar medicina» y «me aseguro de que nunca puedas trabajar en campo de salud nuevamente en ninguna capacidad», resonaron a través del salón privado exclusivo del restaurante Quintonil, uno de los establecimientos gastronómicos más prestigiosos, más exclusivos y definitivamente más caros de toda Ciudad de México y posiblemente de toda América Latina, ubicado en Corazón de Polanco en calle Newton número 55, el vecindario más adinerado y más aspiracional de la capital mexicana, donde rentas mensuales de departamentos modestos de 2 habitaciones regularmente excedían 40,000 pesos, y donde departamentos penthouses de lujo en nuevos desarrollos como Residencial Cumbres vendían por 100 millones de pesos o más, donde era absolutamente común ver Ferraris rojos brillantes, Lamborghinis amarillos llamativos, Bentleys negros elegantes y ocasionalmente incluso Rolls-Royces Phantom plateados estacionados casualmente en calles como si fueran simples Toyotas Corollas o Nissan Versas ordinarios que personas normales conducían. El restaurante Quintonil, propiedad del chef mundialmente reconocido y celebrado, Jorge Vallejo, quien había sido nombrado en múltiples ocasiones durante últimos años entre los 50 mejores chefs del mundo entero por prestigiosa lista anual de World's 50 Best Restaurants publicada por Restaurant Magazine, con sede en Londres, Inglaterra, y que era considerada Biblia definitiva de fine dining global y manejado operacionalmente por su esposa extraordinariamente capaz Alejandra Flores, quien supervisaba cada detalle de service y ambiente. Era lugar donde cena completa para 2 personas incluyendo aperitivos, platos principales elaborados, postres complejos y vino de calidad razonable pero no excepcional regularmente excedía 8,000 pesos mexicanos y donde cena verdaderamente memorable con vinos de alta gama podía fácilmente alcanzar 20,000 pesos o más para pareja, donde hacer reservación para mesa requería llamar con mínimo 2 meses de anticipación a menos que tuvieras conexiones personales directas con el chef propietario o con su esposa o con alguno de manager senior, donde lista de espera para reservaciones en viernes o sábado por noche frecuentemente se extendía 3 o 4 meses hacia futuro. El establecimiento ocupaba hermosa casa histórica meticulosamente restaurada de principios del siglo XX, estructura elegante de 2 pisos completos con arquitectura, que reflejaba influencias de Art Nouveau que había sido popular durante Porfiriato, edificio que había sido rescatado desde estado de deterioro significativo y renovado completamente durante periodo de aproximadamente 18 meses a costo que probablemente había excedido 25 millones de pesos, transformándola en espacio que combinaba preservación respetuosa de elementos arquitectónicos históricos originales como techos altos con molduras decorativas, pisos de madera de parquet elaborado, ventanas grandes con vidrio emplomado artístico, con inserción cuidadosa de elementos de diseño contemporáneo minimalista como iluminación LED empotrada controlada digitalmente para crear ambientes variables, mobiliario custom diseñado específicamente para este espacio por diseñador industrial mexicano reconocido, sistema de sonido de alta fidelidad que reproducía playlist curada de música ambient que era suficientemente presente para crear atmósfera pero suficientemente discreta para no interferir con conversaciones. El resultado era espacio de dining que era simultáneamente íntimo y elegante, acogedor pero sofisticado, arraigado en historia mexicana pero completamente contemporáneo en su ejecución, lugar donde clientes adinerados podían disfrutar cocina mexicana moderna, ejecutada a nivel técnico que rivalizaba cualquier 3 Michelin Star restaurante en París o Nueva York o Tokio, pero que reinterpretaba ingredientes y técnicas tradicionales mexicanos de maneras que eran simultáneas y respetuosas de tradición y audazmente innovadoras. El hombre quien acababa de gritar estas palabras cargadas de pánico genuino mezclado con su arrogancia característica y habitual era Roberto Patricio Salinas Domínguez, empresario de 47 años cronológicos pero con apariencia que sugería 42 gracias a combinación de genética favorable, régimen estricto de ejercicio supervisado por entrenador personal quien cobraba 3,000 pesos por sesión de hora y media 3 veces semanalmente, dieta cuidadosamente monitoreada por nutricionista especializado quien cobraba 8,000 pesos mensuales por crear meal plans personalizados y ajustarlos semanalmente basándose en resultados de análisis de sangre regular, y inversión anual de aproximadamente 200,000 pesos en procedimientos cosméticos preventivos que incluían botox trimestral, ocasionales tratamientos con láser para textura de piel, y uso religioso de productos de cuidado de piel de marcas de lujo como La Prairie y La Mer, que costaban 5,000 pesos o más por single jar pequeño de crema. Roberto dirigía imperio personal de bienes raíces comerciales que había construido durante últimas 2 décadas desde pequeño inicio como broker individual, trabajando desde oficina rentada compartida hasta convertirse en developer mayor y propietario de portfolio impresionante. Empire valorado conservadoramente por analistas financieros en aproximadamente 2.000 millones de pesos mexicanos, consistiendo principalmente de 17 plazas comerciales estratégicamente ubicadas distribuidas a través de Ciudad de México y área metropolitana extensa. Propiedades que generaban ingresos de renta colectivos de aproximadamente 40 millones de pesos mensuales de cientos de tenants comerciales ranging desde tiendas de ropa y restaurantes hasta supermercados, anchor stores y cines multiplex, después de gastos operacionales y pagos de deuda en mortgages, dejándole profit neto personal de aproximadamente 18 millones de pesos mensuales, cantidad tan absurdamente grande que era casi imposible para persona promedio comprender. Era tipo de riqueza donde podías comprar casa de 5 millones de pesos como regalo casual para mistres sin que tu esposa notara ausencia de dinero de cuentas bancarias, donde podías gastar 150,000 pesos en single botella de vino en cena de negocios sin siquiera parpadear o considerar costo, donde palabras "no puedo permitírmelo" literalmente nunca aparecían en tu vocabulario, porque prácticamente nada que pudieras desear estaba fuera de tu alcance financiero. Roberto era hombre acostumbrado absolutamente a conseguir exactamente lo que quería exactamente cuando lo quería mediante combinación efectiva de recursos financieros masivos que le permitían simplemente comprar lo que deseaba, y disposición probada y establecida de usar abogados corporativos agresivos y bien pagados para intimidar, amenazar y ocasionalmente destruir legalmente a cualquiera quien se interpusiera en su camino, o quien le negara algo que él sentía que merecía o tenía derecho a tener. Esta noche específicamente, vestía traje Brioni de 3 piezas hecho de lana super 50 extraordinariamente fina y suave que había sido importado desde Italia y que había costado 80,000 pesos mexicanos solo por el traje sin incluir costo de alteraciones custom para Perfect Fit, que habían añadido otros 8,000 pesos. Camisa Charvet de París en algodón egipcio con cuello y puños de doble botón que había costado 12,000 pesos y que había sido comprada durante business trip reciente a Francia, donde había aprovechado para visitar flagship store en Place Vendôme. Corbata Hermès de seda pura en patrón discreto pero distintivo que había costado 6,000 pesos. Zapatos John Loeb Oxford hechos completamente a mano y a medida en Londres que habían requerido 3 fittings separados durante periodo de 8 meses, donde craftsmen habían creado wooden lasts específicos basados en forma exacta de sus pies, y que habían costado finalmente 95,000 pesos. Mancuernillas de oro blanco con pequeños diamonds que habían costado 42,000 pesos, y en su muñeca izquierda, reloj Patek Philippe Nautilus, en oro rosa 18K con dial azul Distinctive valorado en mercado secundario en aproximadamente 1.200.000 pesos mexicanos, aunque él lo había comprado de Auto Face Dealer por solo 900,000 pesos hace 3 años. Total value de ropa y accesorios que Roberto llevaba en este momento, aproximadamente 2.300.000 pesos, más que muchos mexicanos ganarían en década completa de trabajo de tiempo completo, llevado casualmente en su cuerpo como si fuera outfit de Zara de 4,000 pesos que persona de clase media podría usar. En este momento preciso y crítico, Roberto estaba arrodillado en piso de madera de roble pulida manualmente acabado satinado del salón privado del restaurante, sosteniendo desesperadamente a su único hijo Sebastián de 11 años, quien muy claramente estaba en medical distress severo y que se estaba poniendo progresively peor con cada segundo que pasaba. Rostro del niño transformándose desde color normal saludable a color preocupante de rojo flush, a color definitivamente alarmante de púrpura azul. Proceso de cianosis indicando que oxígeno no estaba llegando a su bloodstream adecuadamente. Manos pequeñas del niño agarrando su propia garganta en gesto universal instintivo de no puedo respirar. Ojos muy abiertos con terror puro que solo niño enfrentando posibilidad real e inmediata de muerte puede mostrar. Terror que era visceral y primitivo, y completamente comprensible porque instinto de supervivencia básico estaba gritando a su brain que algo estaba terriblemente wrong. El niño obviamente se estaba asfixiando, ahogando en pieza de comida que había bloqueado completamente su airway, probablemente chunk sustancial de carne del espectacular platillo de short rib de Wagyu Beef Ultra Premium, que había estado comiendo con entusiasmo momentos antes, cuando todo había sido normal y feliz, platillo que costaba solo por sí mismo 1.400 pesos por porción individual, y que era preparado mediante proceso extraordinariamente elaborado y tiempo intensivo de cocción sous vide controlada, precisamente a temperatura de exactamente 62 grados Celsius, durante periodo completo de 72 horas, continuas para breakdown connective tissue y render fat, mientras manteniendo proteins perfectamente medium rare, seguido por searing rápido e intenso en parrilla de carbón de mezquite, que había sido preheated a temperatura de aproximadamente 450 grados Celsius, para crear crust exterior caramelizado mientras manteniendo interior que era tender como butter, y que literalmente melted in mouth. Era comida extraordinaria, tipo de perfección culinaria que justificaba precio absurdo, pero que también irónicamente por su very tenderness y richness, era exactamente tipo de comida que podía ser dangerous para niño quien might bite off piece demasiado grande y accidentally inhale it, mientras laughing o talking, creating perfect storm de obstrucción de airway. Y la persona específica a quien Roberto dirigía sus gritos desesperados mezclados con amenazas legales, la persona a quien él había identificado incorrectamente como doctora médica profesional basándose en malentendido completo que había surgido de miscomunicación y assumptions incorrectas, era, pero lo realmente impactante fue, Carolina Beatriz Mendoza Vargas, mujer de 29 años cumplidos hace apenas 3 semanas quien trabajaba como sommelier junior en Quintonil durante últimos 2 años exactamente, posición que sonaba significativamente más glamorosa y sofisticada de lo que realmente era cuando considerabas compensación actual y realidades diarias del trabajo. Su salario base mensual era 23,000 pesos mexicanos más propinas que típicamente agregaban otros 8 a 12,000 pesos dependiendo de cuán generosos eran clientes adinerados y de cuántas botellas caras ella successfully recommended y sold durante mes, resultando en total compensación aproximado de 33 a 35,000 pesos mensuales, cantidad que era definitivamente respetable y que colocaba a Carolina solidly en middle class mexicana, pero que definitivamente no la colocaba en misma stratosphere económica que clientes ultra wealthy, a quienes servía rutinariamente. Clientes quienes con frecuencia alarmante gastaban en single cena de 2 horas amount equivalent a lo que Carolina ganaba en 2 o 3 semanas completas de trabajo de 50 horas semanales. Ella vestía uniforme estándar cuidadosamente especificado requerido para todos los miembros del staff de servicio en Quintonil, uniforme que había sido diseñado por consultant de hospitality para project imagen específica de professional legacy sin ostentación. Chaleco negro perfectamente tailored de material que era blend de wool y poliéster, que breathe well, pero que maintain structure appearance incluso después de 10 horas de uso continuo, camisa blanca crisp de algodón de calidad con cuello que era replaced diariamente por laundry service del restaurante para ensure absolute cleanliness, y pressed appearance, falda negra de largo profesional apropiado que caía exactly 3 centímetros arriba de rodillas según specifications estrictas de dress code, zapatos negros cerrados de tacón bajo de exactamente 5 centímetros de marca modesta pero durable que permitían estar de pie y caminar durante horas sin developing painful blisters o foot problems, medias oscuras, sheer sin runs o snacks, make-up mínimo profesional, cabello pulled back en neat chiñón bajo y crucialmente pequeño pin enable de sommelier en su chaleco identificación su rol específico dentro de restaurant hierarchy, pin que había earned después complete en certification course de 6 meses, que había costado 28,000 pesos que había pagado mediante combination de savings y small loan de su padre. Su apariencia completa was designed to be professional, approachable, knowledgeable pero not intimidating, elegant pero not flashy, basically to fade somewhat into background the luxury dining experience, mientras simultíamos y self-dough, y attentive cuando guests needed wine guidance o service, delicate balance que good sommeliers learn to strike. El malentendido crítico que había llevado inevitablemente a este momento de crisis life or death, había comenzado aproximadamente 20 minutos antes, durante what había been hasta ese point completely normal y routine service, cuando Carolina había estado attending a mesa de Roberto en salón privado que el wealthy businessman había specifically reserved para cena de negocios importante con 3 socios potenciales en potenciales joint venture más sus esposas respectivas, total de 8 adultos plus hijo de Roberto Sebastián, quien había sido permitted to accompany su father como experiencia educativa en World Business Dealings de High Level, opportunity to observe it como deals multimillonarios were negotiated in environment civilized de fine dining. Roberto había ordenado botella de vino tinto particularmente expensive y prestigious, un Chateau Margaux 2010 del Premier Cru Status Vineyard en Bordeaux, Francia, una de esas wines que era legendary en Wine World y que commanded prices que seemed absurd to normal people, bottle que costaba 48,000 pesos mexicanos en Wine List de Quintonil, precio que representaba markup de approximately 10 veces over retail cost, pero que era típico para restaurants de este caliber, donde significant portion de profit margins come desde wine sales, y donde clients wealthy enough to dine aquí, generally didn't blink at wine prices. Cuando Carolina había presentado sealed bottle para inspection de Roberto siguiendo protocol proper de wine service, él había made comment casual mientras examining label, mi doctor personal siempre me dice que vino tinto con moderación razonable es actually bueno para heart health, debido a resveratrol y otros antioxidantes. Usted estudió medicina antes de decidir trabajar en hospitalidad industry, ¿verdad? Mi asistente ejecutiva mencionó algo sobre eso cuando ella hizo esta reservación hace 6 semanas. Carolina había abierto mouth para comenzar a correct este complete misunderstanding porque ella definitivamente nunca había studied medicina en any formal capacity, nunca había attended medical school o nursing school o cualquier tipo de healthcare education program, nunca había claimed to be medical professional de any kind. No tenía absolutely idea alguna de dónde asistente de Roberto había possibly obtained esta información completamente incorrecta about su background, pero Roberto hadn't paused para actually listen a cualquier response que ella might give. Había continued talking sin break sobre sus propias opiniones sobre cardiovascular health benefits de moderate red wine consumption y sobre how some cardiologists recommended sobre diet y lifestyle. Y entonces había pivoted seamlessly a discussing intricate details de business deal que estaba negotiating con sus guests, quienes had arrived at joint table, y moment había simply passed sin Carolina having opportunity to clarify. Carolina había thought briefly sobre bringing up correction después, perhaps durante el en conversación, pero había seemed ultimately unnecessary y potentially awkward. After all, ¿qué really mattered si este particular wealthy client had mistaken impression sobre her educational background? Era not como si esa información was remotely relevant to her actual job de selecting, serving y discussing wines. Era harmless misunderstanding que would have zero consequences. O así ella había thought, except que now, apenas 20 minutos después durante course de meal, hijo de Roberto había bitten off piece demasiado large de extraordinarily tender wagyu beef, había apparently begun to laugh o talk mientras chewing, había accidentally inhaled piece directly in su airway, blocking it completely, y había entered state de complete choking emergency, donde oxygen was not reaching lungs, and absolutely, body was beginning to shut down desde oxygen deprivation, y death was literally minutos away, si obstruction was not cleared immediately. Y Roberto entering complete panic mode, como any father would, cuando watching hijo dying frente a sus eyes, había suddenly remembered su mistaken impression, que Carolina had medical training, había reached out, y había literally grabbed her arm con grip, que was almost painful in his desperate urgency, pulling her toward donde Sebastián was struggling, increasingly weakly, para breathe, y había shouted dos words cargadas de threat, usted es doctora. Mi asistente me dijo específicamente que usted estudió medicina completa antes de cambiar a hospitality. Salve a mi hijo ahora mismo o la demando por negligencia médica profesional. Carolina se había quedado absolutely frozen por full second completo, her brain racing para process multiple facts simultaneous y competing por atención. Child was genuinely choking, y probablemente had only aproximadamente 2 o 3 minutos maximum antes lacked oxygen, caused permanent irreversible brain damage o outright death. Roberto genuinely believed que she was trained medical professional, capable de handling esta emergency. She was not medical doctor, had never attended medical school, or received formal medical training de any kind. Correcting his fundamental misunderstanding in this critical moment would consume precious seconds the time que child did not have. Y most critically, most importantly, most relevantly, espera un momento, no te pierdas este detalle, lo que Roberto no sabía, lo que absolutely nobody en este expensive restaurant sabía, o had any reason to suspect, lo que era completely invisible desde Carolina's external appearance como sommelier serving wine, era que Carolina actually had extraordinariamente specific y relevant background, que meant que although ella technically was not licensed medical professional, in any official legal sense, ella genuinely, truly, actually, knew exactly what to do in precisely esta type de emergency choking situation, knew not theoretically, o vaguely pero practically, y specifically, had been trained extensively in exact procedures necessary, y had trained repeatedly hasta procedures were literally muscle memory. Carolina había grown up en Iztapalapa, uno de los 16 boroughs de Ciudad de México, y one of the most densely populated y economicamente challenged areas de entire metropolitan region, neighborhood donde majority de residents were working class struggling to make ends meet, donde crime rates were relatively high, donde public services were often strained past capacity, donde life for many families was constant struggle para maintain basic dignity y stability, mientras navigating economic hardships que were relentless. Su familia había been working class también. Her father trabajaba como driver para delivery company, earning aproximadamente 18,000 pesos monthly después 20 years de service. Income que was respectable pero que required careful budgeting to support family de 6. Pero her mother, María Guadalupe Vargas, había worked durante casi entire adult life, specifically durante 28 years, como paramedic EMR para Cruz Roja Mexicana, el Red Cross equivalent en México que provided emergency medical response throughout ciudad. María había been person quien responded en ambulance to medical emergencies 24/7 en some of the most challenging situations imaginable, horrific traffic accidents, con multiple victims trapped in mangled vehicles requiring extrication, cardiac emergencies happening in middle de colonias, donde narrow streets made ambulance access difficult, gang violence resulting in gunshot wounds, donde victims were bleeding out while awaiting transport. Todas tips de trauma y medical crisis que large city generates constantly, diariamente relentlessly. El salary de paramedic en México was notoriously low low relative to level de responsibility, stress, danger y emotional toll de work. Mother de Carolina había eventually earned aproximadamente 19,000 pesos monthly después almost 3 decades de service, amount que was woefully insufficient para support family de 6 alone. Razón primaria por cual father también trabajaba extensive hours, family juggling 2 incomes que barely added to enough para modest but stable life. Pero mother de Carolina había not money work como paramedic para paycheck. She had been absolutely exceptional paramedic quienes received multiple formal commendations durante her career para saving lives in extraordinarily difficult circumstances mediante combination de technical skill, quick thinking, ability to remain calm bajo pressure extremo y genuine compassion para people who were suffering. She había eventually been promoted to position de senior training officer responsible para training new paramedics, position que paid marginally better, aproximadamente 21,000 monthly, pero more importantly gave her opportunity to pass on her extensive knowledge y experience to next generation de emergency medical responders. Y desde que Carolina había been pequeña child de approximately 6 años old, living in small house en Iztapalapa, her mother había begun casually, pero systematically teaching her basic techniques de first aid y emergency response, not in formal structured way, pero through daily interactions, through conversations durante dinner, donde mother would describe calls she had responded to that day, sin violating patient confidentiality, pero explaining medical situations y appropriate responses, through occasional practical demonstrations, using training mannequins, que mother would sometimes bring home desde training facility, through repetitive drilling de critical procedures durante weekends. Nunca sabes cuándo podrías necesitar estos skills. Her mother había told her literally hundreds de times durante years de this informal pero intensive training. Medical emergency puede happen anywhere, anytime, to anyone. Si you know what to do, you can potentially save vida. Si you don't know, you can only stand there helplessly watching mientras somebody dies. That difference between knowing y not knowing can be literally difference between life y death. Y así, mediante accumulation de years de this patient repetitive teaching, prácticamente desde elementary school, through secundaria, y into preparatoria, Carolina había gradually learned progressively more sophisticated emergency medical skills, CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation technique para adults, children, y infants, each requiring slightly different hand positioning y compression depth ratios, Heimlich maneuver abdominal thrust technique para choking victims de different ages y body sizes, understanding crucial differences in application between infant, child y adult, how to control severe bleeding mediante direct pressure, elevation, y if necessary improvise tourniquets, how to stabilize potential fracture de neck or spine, to prevent paralysis durante transport, how to recognize early symptoms de stroke, heart attack, anaphylactic allergic shock, diabetic emergency, y dozens de other acute medical conditions, how to triage multiple victims in mass casualty situation, deciding who needed attention most urgently, y perhaps most importantly, how to maintain absolute calm bajo extreme pressure mientras executing procedures que literally determine whether someone lived or died. Carolina had never taken formal classes para medical certification, had never received official license como emergency medical technician or paramedic, was not legally authorized to practice medicine in any capacity, pero she had received approximately 10 full years de informal pero extraordinarily thorough training, desde one the most experienced y most skilled paramedics in entire Ciudad de Mexico, training que had included literally hundreds sino thousands de hours de hands-on practice and training mannequins, detailed role-playing de emergency scenarios, extensive discussion de medical protocols y decision-making processes, y eventually cuando Carolina was older teenager de sustain o CCT, occasionally accompanying her mother in ambulance during shifts como unofficial observer, witnessing firsthand how real medical emergencies unfolded in real world, con real dying people, y how professional EMT responders handled them bajo pressure extremo. Her mother had died suddenly cuando Carolina was 21 years old, victim de terrible irony de ovarian cancer, que had progressed undetected until was far too late, porque she had been so focused in caring para others que she had neglected her own regular medical checkups, discovering cancer only cuando was already stage 4 metastatic con essentially no posibilidad de cure, dying apenas 6 meses después diagnosis. In her funeral, supervisor de Cruz Roja had delivered moving eulogy describing how María Vargas had personally saved estimated más de 200 lives directly durante her career mediante skilled interventions in critical moments, had trained approximately 50 new paramedics, quienes themselves had gone on to save thousands más, had influenced entire generation de emergency medical responders throughout Ciudad de Mexico, her legacy continuing through all those lives saved y all those professionals trained. Y durante years since mother's death, Carolina had carried this extensive knowledge de emergency medicine con her, como precious gift que her mother had given her, skill set que she hoped desperately she would never actually need to use pero que was always there, dormant pero ready, waiting. She había eventually completed degree in hospitality management desde the St. Public University, had developed a genuine interest in wine durante internship at hotel restaurant, had pursued sommelier certification mediante combination de clases y self-study, had found her way into fine dining world, building modest pero satisfying career. Emergency medical training desde her mother had faded somewhat into background de her consciousness, skills que she maintained somewhat mediante occasional review pero que she had never actually deployed in real emergency situation outside the training scenarios, until tonight, until this exact moment, until kneeling in floor de one de Mexico's finest restaurants, watching 11-year-old boy literally dying de choking, mientras his millionaire father screamed demands y threats, all that dormant training suddenly activating completely. En ese punto, todo cambió. Carolina made split-second calculation, lightning-fast risk-benefit analysis, explaining que she was not actually medical doctor, would consume a precious time, probably 15 to 30 seconds minimum para clarify complete misunderstanding, mentre Roberto processed information, y potentially entered even deeper panic buscando real doctor mientras child continued suffocating. Those seconds could easily be difference entre life y death, between boy surviving intact or suffering permanent brain damage from oxygen deprivation, or simply dying outright. She knew exactly what to do. She had practiced Heimlich maneuver hundreds of times in training. Internal ethical debates sobre misrepresenting herself como medical professional versus allowing child to die took approximately 0.3 seconds total, antes training kicked in completely, muscle memory y ingrained protocols overriding everything else. Okay, I need you to stay calm y move aside, immediately, she said con voice que suddenly carried unmistakable authority que absolutely nobody in this restaurant had ever heard, desde her before, voice que was direct hecho de her mother's commander voice, cuando había been responding to emergencies, tone que communicated absolutely clearly que she was professional who knew exactly what she was doing, y that has needed to follow her instructions without debate. ¿Cuánto tiempo exactly has sido unable to breathe? Answer quickly. No sé exactly, maybe 30 segundos, quizás full minute, I don't know, just do something now, Roberto shouted, pero he move aside immediately como she had commanded. Años de being CEO making him instinctively respond a lo authority que lo comanda incluso en midst de his panic. Carolina positioned herself behind Sebastian, quien was still conscious pero clearly fading rapidly. His struggles to breathe becoming visibly weaker con each passing second. Face colors now definitely cyanotic blue-gray, que indicated dangerous hypoxia of oxygen deprivation. She evaluated situation con practiced eye-trained por years. Boy de approximately 4 to 5 kilos body weight, basándose en her visual assessment. Complete airway obstruction evidence por total inability to breathe, o vocalize or cough productively. Still conscious que was positive sign porque meant oxygen deprivation. Hadn't yet progressed to point the neon consciousness, pero también monty time was extremely limited, probably 60 weekend you compret. Nocturning para story, que credo long-term consciousness, pero también mount time was extremely limited, probably 60 to 90 seconds maximum, antes he will lose consciousness. Abdominal thrusts, Heimlich maneuver, was clearly indicated primary intervention para conscious choking victim, con complete obstruction, exactly como her mother had taught her repeatedly during all those training sessions years ago. She wrapped her arms around Sebastian's torso desde behind, found anatomically correct position mediante shriek palpation, positioned her hands just por encima de boy's navel, pero significantly below the rib cage, donde liver was located, que you needed to carefully avoid hitting con excessive force porque liver injury was potential complication de improperly performed. Heimlich maneuver, made proper fisted con her right hand con thumb side flat against boy's abdomen, exactly in correct anatomical position grasp that fist securely con her left hand, y delivered sharp forceful upward thrust usando combination de her entire body weight leverage through her positioning, más power de her leg muscles pushing upward, physically lifting boy slightly off ground con her left hand, the thrust attempting to create sudden sharp increase in intra-abdominal pressure, que would translate to sudden burst the air pressure in lungs, sufficient to dislodge obstruction y expel it. Nothing. Obstruction did not budge. No expelled food, no restoration de breathing. Second thrust immediately. This one even more forceful, pulling upward the inward simultaneously, con maximum force she could generate, using exact technique her mother had drilled in her hundreds de times. Force needs to be sharp y decisive, not gradual. Think date como trying to lift person off ground con single explosive movement. That sudden sharp pressure change is what dislodges obstruction. Still nothing. Boy's struggles were definitely getting weaker now. Conscious awareness fading, skin color getting worse. Quizás 30 seconds left before unconsciousness, maybe 45 if lucky. Third thrust, este one con absolutely everything she had. pulling upward so hard que boy's feet actually lifted completely off ground, his entire body rising 6 inches in air from sheer force, Carolina using muscles in her legs y back, y core que she didn't even know she had, desperation fueling strength, y entonces menos éxito. Chunk de partuecho wagyu beef, piece approximately size de large walnut, flew desde boy's mouth con force, landing en floor approximately metro y half away. Immediately Sebastian gasped massive desperate breath, oxygen flooding into starved lungs. Entonces began coughing violently uncontrollably. Entonces crying loudly. Entonces breathing, proper breathing, chest moving, air moving, oxygen returning to brain, color gradually beginning to return to face as circulation improved. Carolina held him carefully mientras he coughed repeatedly y cried, supporting his weight, pero allowing him to breathe freely, sin restriction, monitoring carefully to ensure que obstruction was completely cleared, y que no remaining pieces de food were still blocking airway partially, watching meticulously para any signs de continued respiratory distress que would indicate problem was not fully resolved. He's breathing, she said calmly, pero clearly to Roberto, quien looked like he might collapse desde overwhelming relief. Obstruction is cleared, pero he needs to be evaluated immediately por medical professionals para ensure no hay damage to his airway, desde either obstruction itself o desde abdominal thrusts, y to check for potential aspiration de food particles into lungs que could cause aspiration pneumonia. Call emergency services now 911 o Cruz Roja direct line. One de Roberto's business partners already had smartphone out y was dialing emergency number con shaking hands. Restaurant manager had appeared in doorway the private room, face pale, clearly preparing mentally para potential nightmare scenario de child dying in his establishment. Sebastian was still crying loudly, pero breathing, que was excellent sign Midori's crying required functioning airway, y vocal cords. Carolina knelt beside him, maintaining gentle physical contact que served dual purpose, the continued medical monitoring plus human comfort, para traumatized child. You're okay, she told him gently pero firmly. You're breathing normally now, you're going to be completely fine. Ambulance is coming, pero that's just precaution to make absolutely sure everything is good. Just keep breathing for me. Nice slow deep breaths, okay? You're safe now. Boy nodded weakly, still crying pero calming gradually, breathing becoming more regular as his body recovered desde trauma. Roberto, recovering somewhat desde his initial panic, ahora que immediate crisis had passed, y his son was clearly alive, y breathing, was staring at Carolina con expression que mixed profound overwhelming gratitude con growing visible confusion. You, my assistant told me que you had studied medicina, pero switched careers to hospitality field después. Where exactly did you complete your medical training? Which university? Which hospital for residency? Y fear was moment the truth. Carolina could continue con misrepresentation, que circumstances had accidentally created, could allow him to continue believing she was licensed medical professional, could potentially protect herself desde any questions about whether she had been practicing medicine without license, or she could tell complete honest truth, y potentially face consequences de him realizing que she was not certified doctor, que she had performed medical interventions sin official credentials, que entire situation might have legal implications, que neither of them had considered in heat the emergency. She chose truth, como her mother had always taught her to do. Señor Salinas, Carolina said carefully, mientras still monitoring Sebastian's condition, watching his breathing y color. I need to clarify something immediately para avoid any future misunderstanding. I never studied medicina formally at any university or medical school. I never attended nursing school or any healthcare education program. I am not licensed medical professional de any type. Not doctor, not nurse, not paramedic, not AMT. I have absolutely no official medical credentials whatsoever. She paused to let that sink in, entonces continued. Lo que I did have was approximately 10 full years de intensive informal training in emergency medical response desde my mother, quien was senior paramedic para Cruz Roja Mexicana durante almost 30 years. She taught me emergency procedures incluyendo Heimlich maneuver desde when I was child, trained me repeatedly durante years. When you indicated que you believed I had formal medical education, I made split-second decision que clarifying complete misunderstanding would waste critical seconds que your son did not have. Every second counted. I apologize if my failure to immediately correct your mistaken assumption created false impression or legal ambiguity, pero my only priority in that moment was saving su hijo's life using knowledge que I happened to possess. Complete silence total in room por approximately 5 full seconds mientras Roberto processed this information, brain working to reconcile what he had just learned con what he had witnessed. Entonces spoke, voice still somewhat shaky desde adrenaline, pero tone shifting. So you are not doctor de any kind. You are sommelier con informal emergency training desde your mother, quien was paramedic. You just saved my son's life using training que is not officially certified or legally recognized. Y si you had wasted time explaining todo eso mientras my son was choking to death, he might well be dead right now. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, that is precisely correct, Carolina confirmed simply, meeting his eyes directly. Roberto looked at her por long moment de assessment. Entonces, unexpectedly, he started laughing. Laughter que was partly profound relief y partly something resembling amazed disbelief at absurdity the situation. This is incredible. I was literally threatening to sue you for medical negligence. See, you failed to save him. Pero you are not even legally doctor or any type de medical professional. So technically, I cannot sue you for medical malpractice, porque you never claimed to be providing professional medical services bajo doctor-patient relationship. You just saw a child choking. You used knowledge que you happen to have desde your mother. Any legal action I might theoretically pursue would be something completely different, like unauthorized practice de medicine, which frankly would make me look like monster suing person, quien saved my son's life. Correct, Carolina acknowledged. Y si you do want to pursue legal action for unauthorized practice de medicine, or any similar charge, that is certainly your right bajo law. Pero first, let's ensure your son is completely stable cuando paramedics arrive para proper medical evaluation. His breathing appears normal, pero he needs chest x-ray y proper examination. One de Roberto's business partners, distinguished-looking older man, quien had been watching entire dramatic scene unfold, spoke up confirmed voice. Roberto, are you seriously considering any type of legal action whatsoever against woman quien you saved your only son's life? Porque si you are seriously considering that, I am walking out to this business deal immediately y permanently. I absolutely do not partner con people quien sue their children's rescuers over technical licensing issues. That would be moral bankruptcy. Roberto shook his head quickly, emphatically. No, por supuesto not. I am not suing anyone. I was just processing everything. Mi hijo almost died right in front of me. This woman saved him. She is not Dr. Petter. She knew exactly what to do. If she had stopped to explain she was not certified medical professional, he would probably be, he trailed off, unable to vocalize complete thought. Paramedics arrived approximately 8 minutes después. Initial incident, professional team de dos male AMTs, quienes immediately took over medical assessment de Sebastián, checking vital signs con portable equipment, examining airway carefully, con small flashlight para visible damage, asking Carolina quick concise questions about exactly what had happened, duration de obstruction, number de abdominal thrusts performed, boy's condition afterward. Carolina answered using correct medical terminology que she had learned desde her mother years ago, describing sequenced events clearly. Patient as 11-year-old male, approximately 45 kilos, complete airway obstruction secondary to food aspiration, appeared to be partially chewed meat approximately 2 centimeters diameter, conscious pero rapidly deteriorating con visible cyanosis. I performed 3 abdominal thrusts using standard Heimlich technique. Obstruction cleared in 3rd attempt. Patient immediately resumed breathing, coughed productively, no vomiting. Breathing has been normal since obstruction cleared approximately 8 minutes ago. Color is returning to normal. Patient is alert, responsive, communicating verbally. Lead paramedic, middle-aged woman approximately 40 años old, con name tag reading Flores, looked at Carolina con expression de professional recognition después hearing her precise description. Your technique was textbook correct. You almost certainly saved this boy's life. Duration to complete airway obstruction matters enormously. After 3 to 4 minutes without oxygen, permanent brain damage becomes increasingly likely. Where did you receive your emergency medical training? My mother was senior paramedic, aquí en Ciudad de Mexico para Cruz Roja, durante almost 30 years. María Guadalupe Vargas. She trained me informally desde when I was child. She passed away 8 años ago. Paramedic's eyes widened noticeably con recognition. Maria Vargas? She was my primary training supervisor. I did my entire first year the field work bajo her direct supervision back in 2007, cuando I was brand new AMT, terrified to everything. She was...
Paramedic paused, emotion crossing her face visibly. She was single best trainer I ever had during my entire career. Absolutely best. Patient, demanding, knowledgeable, compassionate. Everything good paramedic should be. I heard she had died several years ago desde cancer. I attended her memorial service. I am so sorry for your loss. Thank you, Carolina said quietly. She would have been proud knowing que her training continues to save lives incluso indirectly through people she taught. Paramedics quickly determined que Sebastián needed to be transported to hospital para precautionary observation y examination para potential complications, chest x-ray to rule out aspiration de food particles into lungs que could cause dangerous aspiration pneumonia, examination de airway para possibly trauma, desde obstruction o desde abdominal thrusts, monitoring para any delayed complications, standard protocol para choking cases, even cuando patient appeared recovered. Roberto insisted absolutely on riding an ambulance con his son, refusing to be separated. Antes leaving, mientras paramedics were preparing Sebastián para transport en rolling gurney, Roberto turned to Carolina con expression que was complex mixture de emotions. I will return here, he said. His tone was genuinely ambiguous. Was this threat de legal action? Promise de gratitud? Simple statement de fact? We need to talk more. Thank you. Gracias. You saved me, hijo. I will never forget this. Y entonces they were gone, leaving Carolina standing in now quite private dining room con 6 remaining dinner guests, quien were all staring at her. Restaurant manager quien looked simultaneously relieved y concerned, y 2 waiters quien had witnessed parts de scene. Aún no has visto la mayor sorpresa. Los next 3 days fueron absolutely whirlwind para Carolina, life transforming in ways she could never have anticipated. Story de what had happened spread rapidly through Mexico City's interconnected fine dining community, amplified dramatically porque several de Roberto's business partners, quien had witnessed the entire incident firsthand, were themselves prominent business figures, con extensive social networks, quien told story repeatedly to anyone quien would listen. Version de events varied wildly in different retelling, details morphing y changing como any story does cuando passed through multiple people. Algunos accounts had Carolina being secretly trained air physician, working incognito como sommelier, to avoid stress the medical career. Otros had her being heroic bystander, con only basic first aid knowledge, quien had gotten extraordinarily lucky. Algunos claimed she had used revolutionary new medical technique que wasn't widely known yet. Few even suggested she had psychic abilities, que had allowed her to know exactly what to do. Restaurant manager, man named Javier, quien was typically calm bajo pressure, porque managing fine dining establishment required handling constant minor crises, had called Carolina into his small office next morning, con expression que she couldn't read, expression que made her genuinely concerned que she might be about to be fired. Manistas pues all, situation had created significant chaos in restaurant, disrupted service para other guests, potentially could have resulted in child dying in their premises, que would have been pure nightmare, the epic proportions requiring years to overcome, y she had technically misrepresented herself como medical professional, incluso if accidentally, y con what seemed like good intentions. Pero instead determination, manager had said, Carolina, I have received approximately 30 phone calls desde ayer afternoon y evening desde people quien have somehow heard about what you did, incluyendo personal call desde Chef Jorge Vallejo myself, referring to celebrity chef/owner de restaurant, quien specifically wanted to personally thank you para handling crisis con such professionalism y competence bajo extreme pressure. También received call desde Roberto Salinas, quien apparently urgently wants to speak con you about something he says is importante. It boosted significantly. También received calls desde 2 other top-tier fine dining establishments in Ciudad, offering you sommelier positions con significantly higher compensation, porque apparently word has spread throughout industry que you are person calls quien stays calm in crisis, situations y quien has unexpected valuable skills beyond wine knowledge. Am I being terminated? Carolina asked directly, preferring to know immediately. Fired? Absolutely not. Actually, quite opposite. I am promoting you to senior sommelier position effective immediately, con salary increase to 35,000 pesos monthly base plus your regular tips, porque while I genuinely hope we never have another medical emergency in este restaurant, facte que we have staff member quien can handle such situations professionally y effectively is extremely valuable from risk management perspective, y more important than that practical consideration, you demonstrated exceptional judgment y decisiveness bajo extreme pressure, qualities que are genuinely rare y extremely valuable in any context, not just emergency situations. 5 days después incident, Carolina received formal email desde Roberto Salinas, requesting meeting at his corporate office headquarters. She debated simply ignoring request. Después all, man had threatened to sue her antes she had even done anything. Pero ultimately curiosity won over caution. Roberto's office was exactly como predictable stereotype would suggest, floor 38 de Torre Reforma, one of the tallest y most prestigious buildings in entire Ciudad de Mexico, with commanding views at everything. Office space, the approximately 100 metros cuadrados con floor-to-ceiling windows, providing truly spectacular panoramic views the entire sprawling capital city spread out below, furniture que probably cost more collectively than Carolina's entire annual salary, multiple pieces de original contemporary Mexican artwork, and walls worth hundreds de thousands de pesos, everything designed to communicate power, success, wealth. How is Sebastián? Carolina asked immediately upon being shown into office, before any pleasantries. Completamente fine. Perfect health, no lasting effects whatsoever, Roberto responded quickly, gesturing towards comfortable chair, indicating she should sit. Doctors did complete examination, chest x-ray completely clear showing no aspiration, airway examination showing no significant trauma, monitoring overnight showing absolutely no complications. They released him next day. He's back at school now, telling everyone about his dramatic choking incident and how he was saved. You performed Heimlich maneuver perfectly according to multiple doctors. Quien reviewed case. They said if you had waited even 60 more seconds para professional medical help to arrive, outcome might have been dramatically different, potentially fatal, or at minimum permanent brain damage. There's the oxygen deprivation. He paused, meeting her eyes. I brought you here porque I want to apologize properly, y porque I have business proposition para you. Apologize para what specifically? Carolina asked, genuinely curious what he thought required apology. For threatening to sue you mientras my son was literally dying. For making assumptions about your background sin actually knowing anything real about you, beyond what my assistant incorrectly told me. For treating you como staff member, whose only value was functional service rather than como complete human being, con her own story, y capabilities y knowledge. Y for her, poised, seemingly struggling with admission. For probably treating many other service workers exactly same way throughout my entire adult life, never bothering to learn anything about them beyond their immediate function in my life, never considering que they might be complete complex people con their own histories y expertise. Era surprisingly humble y genuine seeming apology desde man quien was widely known para being arrogant y demanding. Y your business proposition? Carolina prompted. I want to establish permanent philanthropic foundation. Roberto said, leaning forward con obvious enthusiasm. Emergency medical training fund para service workers throughout hospitality industry. Primary goal would be to provide completely free training in CFR, Heimlich maneuver, basic first aid, emergency response protocols to waiters, bartenders, sommeliers, hotel staff, anyone quien works in environments donde they regularly interact con public y might encounter medical emergencies, pero quien typically don't have any medical training whatsoever. I want to fund it initially con 10 million pesos de my personal resources. Y I want you to help design complete training program, y potentially work como either spokesperson or actual trainer, or both, whatever role you're comfortable con. Salary would be 75,000 pesos monthly to start. Carolina stared at him in genuine shock. 10 million pesos? That's, if your mother trained you informally durante years, y that training saved Sebastian's life, just imagine how many additional lives could potentially be saved, si we systematically train thousands de service workers throughout entire ciudad, no, throughout entire country eventually, in basic emergency response. Plus, he added con slight smile, que seemed somewhat self-aware, honestly is also excellent PR para my various companies to be publicly associated con major life-saving public service initiative. Durante the next 4 months, Carolina worked extensively con Roberto's team de administrators, y legal advisors, y fundraising experts, y con several emergency medical professionals recruited desde Cruz Roja, desde emergency rooms de various public hospitals, desde paramedic services throughout Ciudad, to design comprehensive training program. They developed 8-hour intensive course covering adult, child, infant, CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, con proper hand positioning, y compression ratios, Heimlich maneuver abdominal thrust technique para different age groups, severe bleeding control using direct pressure, elevation, improvised tourniquets, recognition the warning signs to common life-threatening emergencies like heart attack, stroke, severe allergic reaction, diabetic crisis, y critically important, when to immediately call professional emergency services versus when immediate bystander intervention was necessary before help could arrive. Training was specifically designed para complete non-medical lay people, using clear, simple language, avoiding unnecessary medical jargon, con extensive hands-on practice, using proper training mannequins, para every single technique, ensuring que every trainee actually performed procedures repeatedly, bajo supervision, rather than just watching demonstrations passively. They recruited volunteer trainers desde Cruz Roja Mexicana, desde emergency medicine departments de multiple public y private hospitals, desde active paramedic services, quienes were willing to teach during off hours. They partnered officially con major restaurant associations, representing hundreds de establishments, con hotel chains operating throughout Mexico, con hospitality worker unions representing thousands de employees. They secured donated training mannequins y other equipment desde medical supply companies, quien saw significant PR value in being publicly associated con life-saving educational initiativa. 6 months después, original incident at Quintanil, first official training cohort successfully completed entire program. 50 service workers desde various restaurants, hotels, bars, event venues throughout Ciudad de Mexico, each receiving formal certificate of completion in basic emergency response, each receiving small laminated card to carry in wallet, identifying them como trained responders, each hopefully carrying knowledge que might someday save life. 1 full year después, original incidented program had successfully trained approximately 1,000 people throughout Ciudad. Remarkably, encouragingly, there had already been 3 documented successful life saves directly attributable to program. Waiter at different restaurant quien performed seafarer successfully in guest, quien suffered sudden heart attack, he who survived porque seafarer maintained circulation until paramedics arrived, bartender, quien stopped severe bleeding, desde kitchen accident using direct pressure techniques learned in training, preventing cook, desde potentially bleeding to death, y hotel front desk clerk, quien recognized distinctive symptoms de stroke in guest, he immediately called emergency services using protocols learned in training, getting guest to hospital within critical window, para clot busting medication, saving guest desde what would have been permanent severe brain damage.
Durante the ceremony celebrating program's one-year anniversary, donde Roberto was formally presenting awards to outstanding trainees and making announcements about future expansion plans, Carolina was invited to speak about her personal experience to audience de approximately 200 people, including current and past trainees, major funders and donors, emergency medical professionals, and members de press covering story. My mother, Maria Guadalupe Vargas, dedicated her entire adult life to saving others, Carolina began, speaking clearly into microphone to assembled audience. She worked como senior paramedic para Cruz Roja Mexicana durante almost 30 years, responding to countless emergencies, saving estimated hundreds de lives directly, training dozens de new paramedics, quien themselves went on to save thousands más. She died cuando I was only 21 años old, y para many years después, I carried knowledge she had given me, pero never really had meaningful opportunity to use it outside the theoretical scenarios. She paused briefly. Cuando I saved Sebastian that night at Quintanil restaurant, it was literally first time I had ever actually performed Heimlich maneuver in genuine rail emergency outside to practice scenarios, con training mannequins. It made me realize something profound. Knowledge is only truly valuable cuando it is shared widely and used actively. For years I had carried this knowledge casi como secret, something personal, gift is de my mother, pero also something private. Pero knowledge that sits unused in one person's mind is wasted potential.
She continued. There are literally thousands upon thousands de people working in hospitality industry throughout the city quien witness medical emergencies durante their careers. Some de those emergencies happen in environments donde professional help is several minutes away. Pero as we all know, minutes matter enormously in medical emergencies. Difference between 3 minutes without oxygen y 5 minutes can be difference entre complete recovery y permanent brain damage or death. If you know what to do, if you have been trained, if you have practiced, you can potentially be difference entre someone living or dying. That is tremendous power. That is also serious responsibility, y that is precious gift que my mother gave to me y que now we are working to give to many others. En audience, Roberto was recording entire speech in his smartphone, tears streaming openly down his face, no longer caring about maintaining tough businessman image. Beside him sat Sebastian, now 12 años old, completely healthy, energetic, quien would later tell reporters que cuando he grew up, he wanted to become AMT paramedic, porque someone saved my life using skills her mother taught her. Y I want to save others too. I want to continue that cycle. 3 full years después original incident, Carolina had transitioned to full-time position como director de Emergency Medical Training Fund, receiving salary de 75,000 pesos monthly, representing more than double what she had earned, como sommelier, position donde she designed new training curricula, recruited and managed trainers, did extensive fundraising work, gave presentations to potential corporate sponsors, managed growing operations, and still occasionally taught courses directly herself, cuando she wanted to stay connected to actual hands-on training work. Fund had expanded dramatically beyond original modest goals. Total program had now trained approximately 8,000 people throughout Ciudad de México, y había begun expanding to other major cities throughout Mexico. Documented successful life saves directly attributable to program training had reached impressive total de 23 verified cases, multiple heart attacks, donde CPR had maintained circulation until paramedics arrived, several choking incidents similar to original case, severe allergic reactions, donde trained responders had recognized symptoms y administered epinephrine from emergency kits, multiple bleeding emergencies, donde hemorrhage control had prevented deaths, y various other life-threatening situations, donde trained bystander had made absolutely critical difference. Y most encouraging seeing the program's long-term sustainability. 3 de los trained responders había been enrolled in programas trained the trainer track, receiving advanced instruction in how to effectively teach emergency response skills to others, creating self-sustaining cycle the knowledge spreading organically through community beyond just formal institutional training programs. Durante interview being conducted para documentary film being produced about program's impact, filmmaker asked Carolina direct question, do you ever regret not immediately correcting misunderstanding que Roberto had about you being doctor? Technically speaking, you did allow him to continue believing something false about your credentials. Some people might argue you misrepresented yourself, incluso if unintentionally, y with good intentions. Carolina considered the question carefully antes, responding thoughtfully. I struggled genuinely con that exact question, para long time después incident. Technically, legally, I did allow him to continue believing something que was false. Practically, immediately correcting his mistaken assumption would have consumed precious seconds, probably 15 to 30 seconds minimum, que child quite literally did not have to spare. Ethically, I possessed actual knowledge, y practical skills necessary to save life in that specific emergency, y I used them effectively. Would it truly have been more ethical to allow child to die whilst I meticulously clarified my exact credentials? I genuinely don't believe so. She continued. Pero what I learned desde that intense experience, what has shaped my thinking sobre education y credentialing ever since, es que formal credentials y actual practical knowledge are absolutely not same thing. I was never certified EMT, I never attended medical school or nursing school or any official healthcare education program. Pero I had genuinely real, genuinely practical knowledge acquired through literally thousands the hours the intensive training desde one the best paramedics in entire Ciudad de Mexico. Sometimes as society we place far too much emphasis in official paper credentials y far too little emphasis in actual demonstrated capability. Obviously credentials matter enormously para many purposes. I would never suggest que anyone should practice medicine without proper training y licensing. Pero in emergency situation donde seconds matter, practical knowledge trumps paperwork. Durante 5th anniversary celebration the program held at upscale hotel ballroom, con approximately 6,000 attendees, Roberto publicly announced major expansion, additional 15 million peso donation, bringing total endowment to 25 million pesos, specifically designated to expand funds operations internationally, beginning con pilot training programs in Guatemala y Colombia, donde hospitality industries were growing rapidly, pero emergency response infrastructure remained limited. 5 años ago, Roberto said durante formal press conference portion the event, speaking to assembled journalists desde major newspapers y television stations, "My only son almost died because piece de Wagyu beef got lodged in his throat, blocking his airway completely. Woman quien saved his life, quien is here con us today, was not doctor, she was sommelier wine expert, quien happened to have been trained extensively in emergency response por her mother, quien was career paramedic, that element of randomness, pure chance, que trained capable person happened to be there in exactly right place at exactly right moment, troubled me deeply. So we created this program specifically to reduce that randomness, to ensure que trained people are present everywhere throughout our communities, so que next time emergency occurs, someone nearby automatically knows what to do." He gestured toward Carolina, quien was standing beside him in front the assembled crowd. Carolina could have easily allowed misunderstanding to continue, could have accepted credit como medical professional, could have protected herself desde any potential liability questions. Instead, immediately después crisis was resolved, her child was safe, she told complete truth about her actual background, despite not knowing how I might react. That combination de integrity plus obvious capability is exactly why she leads this fund today. Y that is why I am announcing today que I am personally establishing permanent endowment de total 60 million pesos to ensure this program continues indefinitely, completely independent of my ongoing personal involvement or support. Audience erupted in sustained applause, lasting almost full minute. Carolina, quien had not been informed beforehand about 50 million peso permanent endowment announcement, looked genuinely shocked, but also deeply moved. Later that evening, durante intimate private dinner, con small group including Roberto, Sebastián, several fund board members, y notably Carolina's father, y dos younger siblings, quien had traveled desde Iztapalapa to attend celebration, Roberto proposed heartfelt toast. To Carolina's mother, Maria Guadalupe Vargas, he raised his glass high, voice thick con emotion, quien dedicated her entire life to saving others, y quien trained her daughter so extraordinarily well, que those life-saving skills continued to multiply y spread incluso years después her death. To Carolina herself, quien uses her platform y growing influence, not para personal glory, pero purely para spreading knowledge widely. Hoy que wishin shinin score to with, quien ordinary people can absolutely do extraordinary things, cuando given proper training plus opportunity, salud, glasses clinked throughout private dining room. Cuando pensaron que todo había terminado, 7 full years después, original life-changing incident. Carolina received unexpected handwritten letter desde young woman named Isabel, age 19, quien explained que she was currently student at prestigious culinary school, actively planning future career in fine dining industry. She had completed emergency medical training fund course, como parte de her hospitality studies program, que now routinely included funds training como opcional, pero strongly recommended component para all students. Letter explained in heartfelt detail. 2 weeks ago, I was doing required internship at upscale restaurant, cuando guest at table suddenly began choking visibly. Because the training desde your program, I knew immediately, exactly what to do. I performed Heimlich maneuver successfully after 3 attempts. Guest survived completely intact. Pero what I desperately wanted to tell you, what you need to know, is que guest quien was choking, guest whose life I saved, was my own grandmother, quien had come specifically to restaurant that evening to visit me, during my shift to see donde I was working. If I had not been trained properly, I would have watched helplessly, whilst my abuela died right in front of me mientras waiting para ambulance to arrive. Instead, I saved her life using knowledge you helped give me. She is 74 years old. Y doctors say she probably has another 10 good years minimum. That is 10 years I would have lost forever. 10 years de memories, holidays, conversations, time together. 10 years de life. Y I have that time. Mi abuela has that time. Solely porque your mother trained you decades ago. Y you created program que trained me.
I cannot adequately express what that means to me, family, pero I wanted you to know. Carolina read letter 3 complete times, tears streaming freely down her face, not caring quien might see. This was it. This was exactly why all day it mattered profoundly. Not impressive statistics about number of people trained para official reports, not positive press coverage para donors, not awards or recognition of funding milestones. This, exactly this. One grandmother getting 10 additional years con her beloved granddaughter, porque knowledge had spread desde Carolina's mother to Carolina to Isabel, rippling outward through time and space, multiplying impact. She replied to Isabel's letter personally that same evening, writing several pages longhand, inviting her to visit fund offices, offering her potential internship position, helping design training materials, specifically para young hospitality students like herself. Isabel accepted immediately, eventually joined fund staff full-time, después finishing culinary school. He became one of the organization's most effective trainers, bringing unique perspective to someone who had actually used training to save family members' life. In quiet private moments durante late evenings at fund offices, cuando most staff had already left for a day, Carolina sometimes sat alone at her desk looking at framed photos she kept prominently displayed. Her mother in crisp Cruz Roja uniform, standing confidently beside ambulance, looking strong and ready to respond to next emergency. Beside it was second photo added later, Carolina herself demonstrating Heimlich maneuver to large training class to approximately 50 attentive people, Isabel assisting her at front the room, both wearing shirts comme falloir glow clearly visible. I carry your legacy forward every single day, mama. Carolina would whisper softly to photo durante these reflective moments. Everyone you personally saved, everyone you trained directly, everyone they went on to save and train themselves. It continues growing. It multiplies exponentially. Your life's work did not end cuando you died. It multiplied and spread. It continues spreading. In those profound quiet moments alone, she understood fully what her mother had meant all those years ago, durante countless training sessions cuando she had repeated like mantra, if you know what to do, you can potentially save vida. If you don't know what to do, you can only watch helplessly while someone dies in front of you. That difference between knowing and not knowing, that difference is everything. Knowledge was indeed power, pero only cuando shared generously, only cuando spread widely, only cuando multiplicado teaching others, quien would teach others, quien would teach others, quien would teach others, creating endless expanding chain to capability spreading through community like ripples expanding outward across still pond. Desde single stone dropped into water, each ripple creating more ripples, effect multiplying indefinitely. That was real lasting legacy, not paper credentials, not official certification, not public recognition or awards, but actual life-saving capability, being passed person to person, generation to generation, saving real lives to real people. Esta historia nos recuerda profundamente que conocimiento real y capacidad práctica no son necesariamente idénticos a credenciales oficiales en papel. Carolina representó countless personas throughout world quien poseen skills genuinos y capabilities profundas adquiridas a través de experiencia vivida y entrenamiento informal intensivo. Capacidades que pueden literalmente salvar vidas pero que frecuentemente no son reconocidas oficialmente porque carecen de certificación formal. Su historia demuestra que en momentos críticos de crisis absoluta, lo que realmente importa no es el título impreso en tu diploma oficial, sino el conocimiento práctico en tu mente y la capacidad de actuar decisivamente cuando others están completamente paralizados por pánico. Y más importante, su historia muestra cómo knowledge compartido generosamente multiplica su impacto exponencial a través de tiempo. Gracias por ver el vídeo y acompañarme. Si te ha gustado, nos vemos en los comentarios. No olvides suscribirte al canal y activar las notificaciones.